Hi, everybody. This is Jim Saffron with Pure Vintage Media, and welcome to our podcast interview. Recently, I spent time with two of my favorite musicians, Joe Mass and Jimmy Haslip. Both have extensive solo careers. They're always in demand as studio musicians, and every spring they play the Dallas International Guitar Festival along with that legendary keyboard player, Jeff Lorber. So now, let's welcome Joe Mass and Jimmy Haslip. Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to Pure Vintage Media. And this is going to be a special one for me. We have both Joe Mass and Jimmy Haslip. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Uh, so I've had the privilege, I met both of these gentlemen the last couple of years in Dallas at the guitar show, and they're fixtures there every year. And their set is well attended all the time. And along with Jeff Lorber, they're just fantastic kind of fusion jazz, I guess you'd say. I think I was surprised, Jimmy, to hear that you were in a punk band early on, that's kind of interesting. Do you have any pictures of all that?
Well, mostly rock bands.
Yeah.
But I did do when I first came to LA, I was doing a lot of sessions, and in those sessions, because it was mid '70s, I ended up doing some recording with some punk groups. It was a band called the Pele Brothers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I recall that, and that of all places, we recorded at the old Beach Boys studio, so it was kind of an interesting
Very
project.
nice.
Mm.
Yeah. So were you at the Whiskey and the Starwood clubs all the time
Yeah,
back then?
I played in all those, and I used to go there, and see bands play. So yeah, the Roxy was another place I played in, and also saw some great concerts there. Uh, in the mid '70s, there was a lot going on in Los Angeles. Um, a lot of little clubs. I used to play in a place called the Central, which later became the Vampire Club.
Yeah, I
Uh,
remember that.
yeah.
And
So
Madame Wong's, there were all
yeah,
kinds of
Madam Wong's. I played the one in Chinatown, and then there was one in Santa Monica, West LA area. Gosh, there was a lot of places.
a lot
Uh,
of music back then.
yeah.
A lot of music. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. I was telling Joe just a little while ago, I used to do whatever I could to get out to see music over the hill. I would come over Laurel Canyon driving at breakneck speed. Back then, I actually had, and this is interesting, it's full circle for me. I got my poor mom back in 1976 to co-sign for a $10,000 video rig. I thought of myself, I was going to be one of these guys, and I had the camera that was on the shoulder, backpack, and I used to go to the Starwood and the Whiskey and shoot bands all the time. I grew up with the lead singer from Quiet Riot, so of course I was around Randy Rhoads quite a bit. And when he passed away, I went through all my tapes and I couldn't find it. Everything was bulk erased because the tapes cost a lot of money back then.
Oh my
And I'm
God.
and I'm drinking a beer, and all of a sudden, like Providence, right in the middle of one tape, it comes to life, and it's about 11 minutes of Randy and the band. Rudy Sarzo had just joined, and I'm in the front row like I usually was, and just Randy pulling off all these unbelievable tricks back. This was 1978. So it's a great piece of footage, and I'll share that with you guys when we're done with all this. But yeah, those were great memories. There was a lot of happening music, and a lot of it was disco at the time. It was just making the transition from disco to kind of something else. Van
Right.
Halen and Quiet Riot were both, struggling to get signed, and but it was a magical time. Do you live there now, by the way?
Yeah, I've been here since '75. Well, I haven't been to
Wonderful.
Laurel Canyon. I've been all over the area, but I ended up here in March of this year. My
Oh, I
my
miss
my wife and I moved here in March this year. So
I miss it dearly. You know, I get out every once in a while. I live in Charlotte,
Oh
and
well,
I've been here for most of my life now. You know, over 40 years. Met my wife, and she's from Charlotte. So this is where you stay, right? This is where you end up raising your family.
that's
Uh,
right.
Joe,
Yeah,
you grew up in Philadelphia.
I did. Yeah.
Are you a baseball fan?
Yes, I am.
I'm so sorry as an LA Dodger fan, but I really liked your team. You know, you guys are a class act,
Well,
and
thank you. I'll
yeah,
say one thing. I do like the Dodgers though.
it's
So I
it's
love the Phillies. I wish the Phillies had won the series. Uh,
yeah.
but now, I mean, my second team is definitely the Los Angeles Dodgers.
They're
So
having
Yeah,
a series.
yeah,
what's
love
that?
the Dodgers.
Yeah,
Yeah, Milwaukee. They haven't. Well, they're up 3-0 on
Yeah, and they're going to win
crazy.
tonight too. I don't think the
I
Brewers have a chance. So
I think so because I got a concert ticket for tomorrow night to see Tedeschi Trucks and Little Feat. So I'm hoping
Oh,
that
wow.
lands tonight. Yeah. Um, and then Red Volkert's coming to. He's playing at the Tipsy Burro, which you guys probably had never heard of the Thirsty Beaver, the club out here. It's kind of
No,
a dive bar, but when he
no,
comes out here, that's where he plays. Tip jar on the ground. It's a really interesting story. I probably don't have time for it now, but he's playing on a Sunday morning brunch on Sunday, so it's gonna be a great weekend. Um, yeah, the so Joe, you grew up in Philadelphia, right?
yes.
I'm going through your bio. It seems like you had a really early start on a music career. When did you, how did all that happen? And was there music in your family? Did you grow
Yeah,
up around?
my mother was a great pianist, and she was a big influence on me, especially when I started doing music. She she would watch me and listen to me practice, and then later on, I started studying violin, and she was very critical of my violin playing. So,
In a
but
good way? Or?
well, I would be playing with her, and she would be playing, and we'd be reading through a Mozart piece or something, and she would just turn to me and say, "That was terrible." Like just like that, like that was terrible.
So
You
could you
really
read
need to
music from an
practice
early,
that.
could you read music from an early age?
Um, well, I started on piano, and I mean, that's how you learned. I mean, I learned how to read when I was 8 or 9 years old, and I was playing the piano, and so I would read through, and my mother would sit with me on the piano, and you know, my mother was playing Rachmaninoff, but I was just, playing kid stuff, and but it was cool, and I got to a point where um, I then wanted to play the guitar, and so we got a guitar, and I had a friend in school who was on a morning television show, um, and him and his brothers were playing. His name was Johnny Ferraro, and I made a note to myself to talk to him on Monday when I went back to school, and that's how I started playing guitar. He was my first teacher to show me like chords and stuff. And
Wow.
I recently played a show in Philadelphia at the Ardmore Music Hall, where Jimmy's played there too with
Yeah.
Oz, and 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 Johnny was there. He was there watching
Wow.
me play. It was a nice thing. He's and and then just kind of like went along and played,
Yeah.
and played in bands, and like devoted my life to playing music, and it's led me to meeting Jimmy. I met Jimmy through a friend of Jimmy's named John Hill, who um, is this promoter, producer guy. And I first met John when I did this tribute to Jaco Pastorius with the original drummer from Weather Report, and Gerald Veasley was playing bass. Anyway, so I did that concert. You can actually watch that online. It's called Jaco Tribute 2012.
Oh, I'll have to find that. Yeah. Huge.
Um,
Yeah.
and we had it was a really great band, and John Hill was the producer of that concert, and along with this other guy named Kevin Burke. And John called Jimmy for me and said, you know, you have to meet this guitar player that I know. And so Jimmy, I had I had my first deal with Bootsy Collins in 2020, and Jimmy played on that record, and then we decided to do a little jazz record, which I thought was going to be something totally different. And I sent Jimmy the songs, and then when I got like some of the recording back that Jimmy did, I'm like, is that my song? Because it was, you know, he had Scott Kinsey and he got Randy Brecker on it, and this guy and that guy, and I don't know any of those people, but through Jimmy, you know, I was able to really. I learned so much about reharmonization from Scott Kinsey because he took my music and just like, you know, him and Jimmy just tore it apart, and you know, the record's not out yet. Jimmy's actually mixing it right now. We did that record in a couple years ago, but everything got kind of put on hold because everybody's schedule was so crazy. But now Jimmy's mixing it right now, and Jimmy's my producer on all everything that I do in the jazz fusion world. I mean, who could ask for a better guy? So there, and you know, and then we started playing a couple shows, and we, you know, we've done a couple little things show wise, and that's been a lot of fun. And Jeff's been, you know, Jeff Lorber's a great pianist, and we had my cousin Eric Scatareggio. He did the first shows in Dallas with us, and then Eric couldn't do the shows this year, and so Jimmy got Steve Pruitt from Snarky Puppy, and he plays with Mike
Another
Stern,
favorite of mine. Yeah.
and he's, you know, fabulous drummer. So we had him on this run, and you know, it's been great. I mean, I love playing the guitar, and I love, you know, composing songs, and we're right in the middle of doing yet another record that I'm writing songs for, and that's called the Philadelphia Project, and it's all about Philly musicians, and Jimmy's gonna produce that one too. And Jimmy already got Mike Stern to play on a song with
Wow.
that record. So, you know, I owe a lot to Jimmy for kind of stepping in and showing me the way in this whole. It's really a new experience for me because I've always just been, you know, a rock player. And I played. I mean, I did play on Boosie's records too with um, Buckethead and Eric Gales on a cut or two. We did this record, but you know, the jazz world and the fusion world is really was a new venture for me, and Jimmy has shown me a lot of things that I didn't know.
You guys, when I see you in Dallas, and this is a trite phrase, but I use it all the time, but I reserve it for really special performances. You guys are as tight as a wet knot. When you guys play, it is so damn cool. Your bass lines are so articulating, come through the mix clearly. Joe's guitar playing is just in perfect match with you guys with the band. Um, it almost sounds like you guys have been playing for decades together. I you mentioned
One
Right.
rehearsal.
yeah,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
That's
You
all
mentioned
that was.
Jaco. You mentioned Jaco, and I got to tell my Jaco story before I forget. So I'm backpacking through Europe like we did back in the 70s over a summer break in college. I was there for 3 months, and I found myself in Montreux. And I go, okay, I always wanted to go to the Montreux Jazz Festival. So um, I went, and it was Jaco's first tour with Weather Report. And it was what's really cool is, and I love this about the internet, the entire concert has been upscaled to HD and it's available on YouTube.
Oh, that's
And I
fantastic.
and so I'm watching this, I go, I'm in the audience somewhere in ragged jeans, and I'm watching and Jaco, I'm a guitar player, like to be better than I am, but that's what I play. But to me, there wasn't a finer bass player than him and a more influential one. And his work with another one of my favorite songwriters and artists, Joni Mitchell, was just legendary. Just great, great stuff. He made, when he was in that band, he made those songs with his bass playing. So that's my Jaco story. And I saw that with that his son had replaced you in the Yellow Jackets, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
which is very cool. And anyway, that I had to tell you that story because it changed my life seeing him play with Weather Report, who was really one of my favorite bands at the time.
I also got to meet Jaco in 1975, and I took some lessons from him at that time. He had just joined Weather Report, so it must have been right before you saw him in Montreux. Uh,
Yes, 70. I was there in 76.
yeah, so in '75, I got to hang with him and Alex Acuna. I was rehearsing with a band in the same rehearsal facility, so I got to meet him uh, there and like I said, took some lessons from him. Then I joined Flora Purim and Ayrto's band, and we ended up opening for Weather Report on
Wow.
a variety of shows. So I got to see him on the road as well. And then I would run into him now and then here and there. I was concerned about him, but we got to hang a bit, and so it was very interesting when I left the Yellow Jackets in 2012 to have Felix join the band after me, and I'd met Felix when he was just a tiny tot. Uh, Ingrid, Jocko's ex-wife at the time, had the twins, so she had Felix and Julius. Uh, and they were just little kids, and they came to see us play in Fort Lauderdale. I was with the Yellow Jackets still, and we played this place called the Musicians Exchange. It was a cool club there, and I got to meet the little guys. Felix is not so little anymore. He's like 6'8" now.
Hey, hey,
so, um, so all that was really terrific. I'm sorry Felix didn't stay with the band, but they he moved on to do some great things. He's I see he's playing with a lot of cool people, and the Yellow Jackets got another young, phenomenal bass player named Dane Alderson, who's grew up. I guess he grew up in Perth, but he's been living in Richmond, Virginia. So that's all turned out great, and I'll never forget meeting Jaco and talk about Joe saying that he learned a lot from me. Well, I learned a lot from Jaco too. So that
yeah.
that was quite an experience.
Very sad ending down there. I had a friend that a former partner. We had a recording studio up here, and I was the suit, and they were creatives. But he spent some time with Jocko in South Beach, I think.
Right.
Just very sad. Never got to play with him. It was his hero. Also a great bass player, but became friends with him towards the end. Where his life had really taken a downturn. Just very, very sad. Always loved the man. Um, so you guys get together. Do you see yourselves playing more and more together?
I
Joe,
think,
I'm not sure. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, I think we'll be playing some more. Joe can talk about it, but we have some gigs lined up and getting a little itinerary lined up for next year. We'll be back to the Dallas show, I know, in May, and I'm trying to finish this record, which I think is coming out really great. And Joe sounds fantastic. So there's a lot of cool guests on there, as you mentioned, Randy Brecker and Scott Kinsey, who's are you familiar with Scott at all?
Not no Randy Brecker, I am, but not
Yeah.
Scott.
Okay. Did you ever hear of a band called Tribal Tech?
No.
Do you know a guitar player named Scott Henderson?
Yes, I know the name. Don't
Yeah.
know.
They had a band together. Scott Henderson, Scott Kinsey. It was called Tribal Tech. I'd recommend you check it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Oh, great bass player in that band, guy named Gary Willis, and the drummer is phenomenal. His name is Kirk Covington. So there was a quartet, and they were killing. So Scott's been on his own now for a long time, and in fact, speaking of Jaco, he's got a cool band with a phenomenal bass player from France named Hadrian Farad,
Mm.
a great drummer from Budapest named Gergo Borlai, and they have a band that does tribute to Weather Report and Joe Zawinul. And you should
Nice.
check that out. That's called, the first record was called We Speak Looney-Waz, which is Zawinul backwards.
Isn't that great?
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was weird how Jaco kind of, he joined as, I guess, junior member, but at some point he started writing a bulk of the music. And I don't know if that created tension, but it certainly created great, great music and memorable music. Um,
That it did, yeah.
yeah. Joe, I called you the other day and you were in the middle of teaching. So, it's funny to hear you go full circle and now you enjoy also teaching young players. And I saw you had the college that you're associated with. Are you still with them?
Um, I haven't done Swarthmore College in a couple of years. I was teaching there, but I teach at this small school in Berwyn, Pennsylvania, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
You
And
enjoy that?
there's some notable players that also teach there. There's a band out of Philadelphia called the Hooters, and they were a national band, still are
Sure.
actually.
Yeah.
And David Osikian is the drummer, and he teaches drums there. I have a friend who also I kind of grew up with, and he's teaching drums there. His name is Mike Zangi, and he was the guy who started the War on Drugs, the alternative band, and Kurt Weill and the Violators. He teaches there, and then there's a couple other guys that one guy played in a couple different versions of this band called Quincy, which was an A&M band back in the 80s. So it's fun. And there's a lot of camaraderie in teaching, and I enjoy it. It's nice, I mean, I'm focusing much more on, just it's so hard because I'm trying so hard to balance between, you know, trying to do concerts with the likes of Jimmy Haslip and Jeff Lorber, but then again, I have to make a living because this is all I do. So I
Right.
teach. I'll do somebody's wedding. I'll play in a pickup band. I can play ceremonies on violin because I read real well. I can play anything, pretty much. I can do any classical thing on piano. So I get a lot of those gigs. I can do ceremonies on violin. I also play saxophone, so I can I, I can play a cocktail hour. But I do not. I consider myself a good actor on like saxophone,
Yeah.
and I'll make you think I'm pretty good, but I'm really not. I'm just an actor. But
Well,
the other instruments, like I can get around and I can play ceremonies on the violin. I don't do jazz or pop music on violin, and on piano, it's strictly me playing changes. I'm not a soloist, but I know how to play classical music for ceremonies and things like that. That I can do,
well,
and
couple things. I need to get you guys down to play at the Middle C, which is a jazz club here in Charlotte, and anything I can do to like further that. You and I have talked about it a little bit. I'd love to have you guys come to town to play there.
well, we have an agency now.
Do you?
Um,
Okay.
Yeah, we have an agency, and we also have a. When we were in Dallas, as you know, we used some of your footage, Jim.
Yeah.
Thank God that we got some of that, and we made a really nice, which I sent you, that 3 minute um, promo, and so the agency is just came back from a conference, and I'm expecting now to get 4 or 5 different offers that are coming in, so I
Outstanding.
put you in touch with the agency, and they are handling us as an act, so to speak. And this is all when I can get Jimmy, when I can get Jeff, when I can get the likes of a Steve Pruitt, just to come together and do a couple gigs. It's not, um, you know, make no mistake. This is like Jimmy does a million other things with the likes of like Osnoy and Dennis Chambers and this person and that person. I'm kind of like way down the totem pole there,
I doubt
but
that. Yeah.
Well,
but
that's
we
true.
do,
That's true.
we have done a couple things, so I'm hoping we do more. That's all.
Yeah, and that's not true. I'd be there to support uh, and be a part of this cool little group. And even there's Jeff Lorber's very busy, so we have also lined up to do gigs. We have Scott Kinsey, who's phenomenal. So and Steve Pruitt's on board, and your comics on board too. So we have we have some guys who can do these gigs, and it would be a blast to make some gigs happen for 2026. That's what we're looking for to do.
Yeah.
I, I'm going
And it
to,
will happen. I think 2026, we'll do more than we did this past year in 2025. We're going to do more. And then, the record's going to come out, and
That,
hopefully that'll generate some interest in gigs. And, I mean, you can't really make money with records, but I'm hoping that we get the word out that, here's this record, and, you know, people come out and see us perform the music. That's
the ones that are making a real decent living are touring, more than three-quarters of the year. I mean, I look at bands like Los Lobos. They'll play in Europe, and then the next day they're back in LA. I mean, they play nonstop around the world. And I guess that's the way you have to do it these days. The
yeah,
spot, I make it a point when an album comes out, I don't buy it digitally. I find a way to, because I think the artist, you can correct me if I'm wrong, makes more money if I actually buy a CD. And that's actually forced me to, I hadn't had a CD player in a decade on my computer here. And I went out and actually bought one. They're dirt cheap now. They're like $20
yeah.
for a brand. So now I can, with in the background, play my favorite hits. Um, but the Spotify's of the world, even Apple Music, maybe a little fairer, but they've really destroyed the income stream for artists, and it pisses me off, quite frankly.
Wow,
But
that's been a challenge, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
I watch you guys like a lot of the artists that one thing about, I do a lot of guitar shows, or I used to, and they started to become, I've told this story a bunch of times, but they're almost like the antique road show. These guys drag their gear from city to city. Friday nights, they trade amongst themselves, and all the good deals are gone by Saturday morning. They tell war stories. They move on to the next town. But there's something about Jimmy's show that's different, and it's the entertainment. It's a nonstop entertainment. It's a show that I will never miss as long as I'm able to travel still. I enjoy it thoroughly. I've met so many artists, and what comes off to me, and I don't know if I think you guys feel the same way. Everybody's very humble. There's something about the music scene in Texas that's different. I've lived all over the country, but there's the egos are kind of left at the door. There's a lot of mentoring. You never know who's going to be backing the headliner when they get up on stage, and somehow it works. It's a wonderful combination, and I to anybody listening, I would tell you make the trip to Dallas every May, because you're going to meet guys like this that you probably wouldn't see very often in your own hometown. I would like you, Joe, to pass on after we're done your management's contact,
Yeah.
and let me see if I can do something with Middle C here. I'd love to see you guys come to town. So anyway, we'll talk about that. I've been doing a lot of these podcasts. A group that I grew up with, that, and I've already told Joe about all this, but they're probably my favorite group of musicians. Were a group called Gentle Giant,
Oh,
who I
great.
got to see them tons of times. So
Yeah.
I've interviewed a number of the members, and I noticed that there might be a connection to you, Joe. So Derek Schulman, one of the founding members, went on to have this long career as a record executive in the 80s after the band broke up, and he actually helped cultivate John Bon Jovi's career. And
Wow.
so he just had a new book that came out called Giant Steps, and he details all that. And there's a great phrase in there, or a great line in there, where his John's mom looks at him and kind of with a leery eye, like, "You're going to take care of my boy?" And he goes, "I'll take care of him." And then, like, within a year, John was his own man and pretty much knew what he was doing and what he wanted to do. And I noticed that you might have had some collaborations with him years ago.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you a lot about Bon Jovi because I was at John's studio. The last time I was there was 2012 at the Sanctuary, which is John's place is near Red Bank, New Jersey. I'll put it that way. He lives on the river, and the band Bon Jovi was put together by a Philadelphia attorney named Arthur Mann. Arthur is responsible for Bon Jovi.
Got it.
Arthur and Lance and Tony, John's cousin.
Who owned the studio?
Lance really produced the first records, and when I was a kid, I was managed by Arthur Mann because I could sing and I was writing. This is the 80s now, mind you, okay? And like John was staying in New York at Tony's. The power station had 3 levels to it. On the 3rd floor of the power station were apartments. Tony and Lance lived on the 3rd floor, and they were pilots. So there was these machines that would spit out the weather reports all over the country because they flew a lot of places with their planes. So Arthur said to me, I want you to go to New York City. I'm going to put you up on West 57th Street, and I want you to walk to the power station and meet this other kid named John and write songs with him.
Hmm.
So I did. So I went to New York. I took the train in. I had my guitar, and I met John, and we started just sitting around the power station on the third floor writing songs. And I did that for 2 weeks. So John asked me to move to New York and start a band, but I had all my high school friends in Philadelphia, and we were playing together, and I was loyal to my friends, and I'm like, no, I have a band. And Arthur told me, he said, Arthur was managing me and my little band in Philly, and he said, you're making a mistake. You're making a mistake, Joe. You should think about moving to New York and doing this band with John. But I didn't do that. And then Arthur got Alec and Tico, because they had a studio in North Jersey. So he put John with those two guys. They knew Richie, but John had another guitar player, and Arthur sent Richie to the club where John was playing with Tico and Alec. And Richie went up and said, I'm going to be your guitar player. You got to fire him. And that's what happened. And that's how Bon Jovi got together. That's the true story.
And that's the Arthur man from Ryko Disc?
That is correct. Arthur owned and found Ryko Disc. In fact, my first little record that I put out, well, I didn't even put that out, but there was a record, and Arthur did the liner notes for me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That was like the early days of CDs.
That record. It's called Soul Shred.
Yeah.
And it's just me playing like, kind of bluesy, shreddy type of guitar playing on it. And Arthur, I was still in touch with Arthur, and Arthur still lived in Philadelphia then. I'm not sure where, I think he went back to New York now, but not sure. But Arthur did the liner notes for me. And, there's more to the story than that. Like, there's more to, like, me and John and Obie O'Brien and Lance. And I just got all Lance's gear. It's brought to me from Florida right now. It's in my house right now. All Lance's, like, SPX 90s, all his outboard gear. I have his Nord keyboard. I have all this stuff because Lance's best friend, Rick, who's a phenomenal bass player, and I'm doing some recording with him, he called me up and he said, listen, I want to bring Lance's stuff here to Philly. And Lance, by the way, just passed away, Lance Quinn. And so and Rick didn't have any room in his house, so I have room. So I said, bring it here. So I have Lance's stuff. And actually what's going to happen to Lance's stuff is Rick's not going to sell it. He's going to give it away to different studios and different people.
Oh, that's nice.
But Lance is the guy who really produced John's records. And Lance is the guy who made Talking Heads. In 77, the Talking Heads walked into a studio. They had just gotten a deal, and they couldn't play any of their instruments. They were all art.
Right. That's right.
Lance was like, well, what do you got? Well, we have this song called Psycho Killer, and we have this and all this. And Lance was like, okay, we'll play it. And they're like, well, we can only kind of sing it because we don't really play. And so Lance played all the instruments, and that's how
Really?
Heads learned how to play through Lance. That's a true story. That was
Wow.
Lance Quinn doing that first record.
See, this is why I like these I don't, I do these podcast interviews, and we can talk chord changes and time changes and things like that. But I love these back stories. This is what it's all about, telling these
Well, I
stories.
mean, that's kind of like, all that stuff. I heard it from Lance because
Yeah.
Lance, after that record, he came to work at Studio 4 in Philadelphia. Studio 4 was the Niccolo brothers. And Joe Niccolo, of course, went on to form Rough House Records, which became, billion sellers for rap.
Oh
And
yeah.
I was there at Studio 4 with Lance because Lance produced my stuff
Wow.
because I knew Arthur. And Arthur said, I'm going to get you a producer. And so he assigned Lance to me. But, all along, my heart was always in like fusion and jazz. Like when I grew up, the first record that I listened to like all the time was Pat Martino live.
Yeah.
Listening to the Great Stream and Sonny, and in fact, Jimmy and I, we did Sonny on my record that he's mixing right now, and that was my whole influence when I was a kid was um, Hendrix, Wes Montgomery, Pat Martino, and the Allman Brothers, and that's all. I listened to Pat Martino every day for hours. That's all. I would listen to him play Sonny and play his 16th notes were so perfect. And later in life, I got to meet him because I played this restaurant called the Grotto. I was there for 10 years, and that's how I met Jimmy Bruno. And we became real good friends. Jimmy Bruno's playing on the Philadelphia record that I'm doing. I don't know. I mean, I can ramble on, but I
No,
mean,
you're from. Listen, you play Sonny at the Dallas show. It's I've got a connection with that in my childhood. No need to talk about it, but it sings to me when you play Sonny there, and it's a nice tribute. You know, it's
yeah, I mean, I can't play it anything like that,
it's all
but
right,
but
man. Come
I I
on.
loved I loved the tune, and I've always played that song, and Jimmy, I was thankful to have Jimmy Haslip and I forget who played piano on that, Jimmy. I think it was Scott, right?
Yeah, Scott played, and he came up with some interesting, quirky things to.
Works. Yeah.
That song's been well recorded by so many people, so it was interesting to have the tune and try to come up with something that might be a little bit different, for your record. And I think we got something. You'll have to send a copy of this over to Jim.
Oh yeah, definitely
Okay,
will
here,
when we're done mixing it. Yeah.
you
You
know,
play it on your new CD player.
yeah, that's right. Well, I had to, I really got it because I dug up all these old Gentle Giant CDs that I had, and the
Right.
only place I could really play them was in the car.
Right.
So to be able to, and going back to, I'll just say one thing about them. They were like you, Joe. They were multi-instrumentalists, and if you saw them live, they would actually rotate on stage. At some point, the drummer John Weathers would pick up a guitar, rip on that, and all-time favorite band. They were also very tight. And if you saw what they came from a group called Sonny or Simon Dupree and the Big Sound, which was a kind of a pop group from the late '60s in England. So they were in all that stuff where the women were chasing them to the car and trying to like grab their clothes. And then they came out with this first album, and if you saw the change, it's like, were you guys thinking about this music all these years? And they were lucky enough to get Tony Visconti to produce it, and it was a mind blower. It's like, how can this be the same group of guys? So different.
Yep.
Anyway, um,
I loved On Reflection and like there's some clips of Gentle Giant live now on
Yeah,
YouTube, and that the drummer who played, he played mallets and always wore an Oakland A's uniform.
Yeah, that's it,
Like that
John
was
Weather.
his thing.
Yeah.
And the bass player, I mean,
Ray was unbelievable. He passed away a
yeah, he
couple of
was a
years
great
ago.
violinist too.
Great violinist.
Yeah, great
They were.
violinist. Yep.
If you read their story, I don't want to spend too much time. I don't want to talk to you guys, but if you read their story, they started off the three brothers in, I mean, post-war World War II England, and it was dreary.
yeah,
I mean, they shared bath water. They had a coal-fired furnace. They didn't come from money, and it's just an amazing story. My all-time favorite. I saw them so many times. Saw them at the Whiskey. They sold it out 4 nights in a row. And part of this was I worked at a record store which brought the first UK pressed albums to America. It was a Brit that had moved to LA. And so all of a sudden this album come, along with a bunch of others. There was no progressive music back then. There was no term like that. They were just like mind blowing. It's like, how did this come about? And anyway, it's been nice to be able to meet them and interview them. And the one thing they have in common with you guys are very humble. I can't, how many times Joe is like, sitting here going, I really haven't done much. Joe, you've got a fantastic career. You're a gun for hire, so to speak. You've done so much studio work. Um, it was absolutely a pleasure for me to be talking to you guys today. Absolutely. One of my favorite acts when I go to Dallas each year.
Well,
And
thank you so much, Jim. And I have to publicly also thank Jimmy Haslip for mentoring me and like really kind of showing me this side of music, because I've learned a whole lot, and it's really been a great experience knowing Jimmy and knowing Jeff, and just being able to play shows with them has been, it's kind of a dream come true. So thank you, Jimmy Haslip.
you
well,
guys are awesome. And then I wanted to ask you though, all the types of music you like, you named your some of your influences, and then there's Neil Young. So how did that all come about? Broken Arrow.
That.
yes. Well,
Okay, so
Neil Young's great, and
yeah,
Yeah,
so
no, but it's
stuff.
just
I had to do the song "Old Man for a Wedding." I was playing this wedding, and I walked into Danny's guitar shop, which is Dan Gold,
yeah,
whose sister is one of the best pop songwriters in history, and that's Julie Gold. She wrote "From a Distance," the number one song in 1992, which Bette Midler,
yeah.
made famous. That's Dan's sister. So I walked into Danny's shop. I played Old Man, and he's a bass player, and he said, "Well, I'll play that with you." And then he said, "You kind of look like the younger Neil Young. I know two other guys. We could do a tribute act, and we'll make money." And it's like, I'm like, okay, I'm a pro musician, so I need to do as many things as possible to make money. And so, Broken Arrow formed, and we got an agent, and we play all these shows in big theaters, small theaters, and it goes pretty well. We do
You
really well with
nailed,
that.
yeah, you nailed Neil's voice. His vocals,
Well,
it was pretty damn good. I was
and
watching
he
some of
had,
it.
I mean, there's a lot of tribute acts out there nowadays,
yeah,
and people go to see tributes. That's what they do.
and Neil
Very,
has a great repertoire of music. So
He
yes,
does.
yeah,
He
yes.
does.
I mean, that was in 10th grade high school. Everybody had After the Gold Rush. I mean, there's so many great, and the Crazy Horse was just a fantastic backing band.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
That,
We talked about Jaco and everybody else, but drugs played and especially growing up in LA, drugs were everywhere, played a major influence, and sometimes uh, ended in disaster. But I've always felt that, talk about Coltrane, anybody that was creating art, it's through a little bit of pain, and maybe the pain
yeah,
is dealt with drugs. It never ends well, but some of the best music involve people that dealt with it that way. The list is very, very long, but Crazy Horse was another one that drugs took their toll on that band.
I did, but they're still around.
They're still around.
Yeah,
Most of them, yeah,
Neil's still doing it. So,
yeah. Neil is,
and
and
they,
he just quit Amazon Music. I was reading where, just like I was talking about Spotify, he said none of my music's going to be on Amazon anymore. I don't really like the founder of Amazon, so we're
yeah,
done with that.
Jeff Bezos. Yeah,
Yeah, so he sticks to his guns. Um, it's I think the second president that's tried to keep him out of this country, saying that he's Canadian or whatever. But he's an enduring force. And for me, going all the way back to Buffalo Springfield, just that was just great music. Poco was an offshoot of all that. There were so many great groups that came out of Laurel Canyon. It's
yeah.
so.
Crosby, Stills, Nash.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
If
So,
you had that album, and you had a girlfriend, you were going to have a good night. I had one of the first car cassette players, and I was recording all these cassettes, and boy, that was one that and Loggins and Messina got nonstop play when you had a date. You had to have that in the rotation.
that's
Um, yeah.
which in a
Well,
way is an offshoot of that because of Jim Messina. He was in Poco.
Poco. Yeah, Poco was one of my favorites. Growing up there, the venues were the Santa Monica Civic, the Whiskey, all those clubs on Sunset. Um, but it was interesting. All those, I would see these albums come out through my association with that record store, and all these. I was an audiophile back then, so the vinyl was really thick. All the covers were kind of glossy covers. They had alternate tracks, but every band wanted to play the Whiskey. I saw Yes, I saw Wishbone Ash, I saw Gentle Giant. They all came in, and you've been to the Whiskey. The stage is about,
Oh, it's not that big.
it ain't that big. And
Uh,
so an act like Gentle Giant, they're crammed together. You're
yeah.
going, how are they going to like rotate around here?
But,
But
but
anyway, it was, yeah.
funny
Go
enough,
ahead.
I just played there with Carmine Appice.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did.
And
What
was
did
that a
you do with
tribute to
Carmen
somebody,
Appice?
or go ahead? I'm sorry.
Jimmy, what gig was that?
It was just something. In fact, I'm trying to remember what it was, but actually, I think it had something to do with a tribute to Tim Bogert.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
great,
yeah.
great. I saw uh, one of my favorite concerts at the Hollywood Palladium. I'm in the front row. I'm in high school, and it's Beck Bogart and a piece. And my ears, honestly, my ears were ringing for 3 weeks. I was right in front of Jeff Stack, and it was kind of weird. You always thought he was doing that in kind of a commercial sense, but he you could tell watching him, he really enjoyed playing with those guys.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he really dug it. Yeah,
that was a
uh,
good trio. That was a good
yeah.
trio.
Um, what else? I think we've gone like an hour, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've gone over an
So,
hour. Listen, both of you have been extremely generous with your time. I love your when you guys play together. I will absolutely have the gear set up properly this time. I'll get there the night before and set it up.
uh,
But This time I want to make sure nobody bumps my camera. I have three of you on stage. Who's going to be playing drums with you? Have you decided that?
We've been leaning towards Steve Pruitt, who, this guy from.
He's,
It's great. He's great.
he was really playing well.
He's also playing.
Eric is good too.
Eric is great, but we got Steve's playing on a bunch of stuff on Joe's record now, and we have actually a kind of a nice grouping of drummers on. There's the late, may he rest in peace, Ralph Humphrey, who played with Zappa.
Really?
Gary Novak is on a track, and Dave Weckl.
Wow.
So
we were fortunate to get Dave to play on a track. Yeah.
So we got a few guys on there. Plus, Jeff's on it. Jeff Lorber's on it. Scott Kinsey's on it. And we have, of course, Randy Brecker, you mentioned. And Randy's wife, who's a super talented, wonderful musician. She's a wonderful saxophonist. She's on a couple of tracks. And even got a great percussionist that I've been doing things with here in town, Lenny Castro.
Yeah, sure.
So he was actually a member of Toto. But he's played with a trillion people. So it's a good lineup of musicians. And bottom line, it's Joe's record, and Joe's fantastic, and it's a nice set of music. So I think you'll enjoy it. So the record's called Colors.
Love it. Huge fan, Joe. You know that.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah. By the way, I wanted to tell you at one of the last Philly games, and this is one of my favorite musicians all time. I'm looking, and I had just seen him live in Charlotte a couple months ago, and I'm going, is that fucking Todd Rundgren back there?
Yeah.
Another great Philly musician going back to the Nas. And I had, working at that record store, my manager knew a lot of these bands. And one day out of nowhere, he goes, "You want to go see Todd produce the Hello People?" I said, "Yeah." And I got to sit in the studio and watch Todd produce. I love the Hello People. I don't know if you guys know who that group was. You remember them?
I do.
The Pantomime or the Whiteface, but
yeah.
But I watched him and the genius at the board. Oh my God, this guy. Todd is just one of those enduring musicians. He hasn't lost a step. I watched him play. He had Prairie Prince on drums from the Tubes,
right,
and all kinds of stuff. And he knocked it out for 2.5 hours, just a small intimate gathering, and hasn't lost it at all. Just ripping on guitar, singing. Philadelphia's produced some great musicians, man.
There's a great artist.
Yeah. Yep. I add you to that column, Joe. I love your music.
I'm
brother.
I'm honored.
both of you guys are so good, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in May. I've already made my reservations, and maybe I can buy you guys a drink when either Friday night or Saturday night while we're there.
Sounds good. I appreciate that.
Yeah. We'll see you at the hotel.
It's so easy, isn't it? Just walking across there.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and the meetings that end up at the bar down there are just classic. You never know who's going to be sitting with somebody else, and yeah, I love that place, and I love the show. And God bless Jimmy for putting those on. It's really not easy. Yeah. Thank both of you.